What's up? Welcome to the Fitness Business University podcast. This is Tom Langton. I'm here with Vince Gabriele.
What's up, Big Tom?
Why, was that a bad intro?
No, it's just like, I don't know where you're looking though.
I'm looking at my camera where I'm supposed to look.
Am I supposed to look there?
Sure. We gotta look at our cameras. This is episode 539 of the Fitness Business University podcast.
Yes.
Today's topic is the difference between 100K a month gym owners and 20K a month gym owners.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to get into that, but I have a question for you first.
Yes.
Okay, so when we were going, you sent me an outline, we were doing this. We're going to talk about the P&Ls and how to, understand your numbers and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I started thinking about the team that you have. So we talk a lot about building a good team, but there's also a team. So there's a team you have on the floor. You have your salesperson, your trainers, all that stuff. But there's also like the behind the scenes team. Yep. And you've always had like a group of people, and you've kept a lot of the same people for a long, long time, the behind the scenes people. Mm-hmm. But when I was thinking about, looking at P&Ls, you have two accountants.
Wow.
So that was my question is like, so you have the two Mikes, Mike Waldron, Mike Detlett,
yep.
Right? Both are your accountants. Like, so I want to talk about why you have two of those guys, but also the rest of the team that you've built.
So let me clarify, they're both not accountants.
Okay.
Only one is accountant. So the term CPA as I think certified public accountant,
Yep.
Right? That is what Detlett is,
okay.
and that is the person that calls you when you owe tax.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
You send all your numbers to them. They say, look at all your stuff, make sure you're kind of in compliance with everything. They say you owe this much money for tax.
Okay.
Right? That is an accountant. You can't have a business without that.
Okay.
Okay. The Mike Waldron is what's considered a CFO, which is a chief financial officer.
That's right. Yep.
Chief financial officer. And those are very different people and serve very different roles. Now, they work together.
They do.
Okay.
They communicate.
They communicate 100. They have to communicate.
Okay.
So here's the difference, right? Because most people only have an accountant. Okay. But the difference, and I'm not saying everyone needs a CFO, like none of the gyms, maybe a couple actually, a small handful of the gyms I work with have a full-time CFO that's like hired as a staff person.
And they do both for them.
Yeah, but I have guys doing multi-million dollars that don't have that.
Okay.
It's usually an outsourced person. So what a CFO does is the CFO looks at the numbers from a profit and loss statement that you get monthly, right? Mm-hmm. And basically what that person does is it tells you what that means. What are the numbers saying about your business?
They're translating the P&L for you.
Correct. Whereas an accountant does not do that at all.
Just looks at
It looks at it and says, all right, here's how much money you made. Here's how much taxes you owe. Here's, you're going to get into trouble here. You're not going to get into trouble here. You wrote this off. That's what they tell you. Important, but not the same as the CFO. What Waldron does is basically tells you, hey, you made this much money in your business last month. Here's why you didn't make more.
Gotcha.
Or this is, right? So it's like, this is a great way of looking at it. The numbers are, if your business could talk, what would it say? The CFO tells you what it's saying.
They're translating the P&L.
Correct.
Now, for people listening, or watching, or on YouTube, people watching or listening, for someone who's just starting out, you talk about the stages of business. At what point should somebody hire? If I just opened my business and I'm doing 5 or 10K a month, do I need both of those? I definitely need an accountant, my tax accountant, or can I do that by myself? At what point do I need a CFO? Or do I need it at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing to have, and there's plenty of programs out there, and I know Waldron has this one as an option, that, hey, maybe when you're just starting out, you don't need like a CFO where you're going to talk to them every month or something like that, right? Like I talk to Waldron every month. There's a lot of things going on between the gym, between this company. Like I have to have those conversations with him. But someone that's just starting out, they might just need like dashboards or kind of like spreadsheets and things that are telling you what they're saying without having to talk to anybody. Right. And so maybe it's possible an accountant company, whoever your accountant is, does do something like that, does have that component. And a lot of that can be automated and be done on software. Now, the cool thing with it's possible, that AI could be very helpful.
Right. You just plug your numbers in and get all the feedback
Right.
there.
This is the first time we've even thought about that.
So you're replacing Mike Waldron with AI right now?
Sorry,
No?
Mike.
Is that your best friend? That's all right.
Yeah.
That's good. He's the first one to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So that got me thinking as far as like, we talk a lot about building a team and how important the team is.
Yeah.
So looking at a business, who else do you need behind the scenes? Because like lawyers, insurance people, like all these guys behind the scenes, is it important as a business owner that I have my own personal lawyer or a law firm that I work? Like, what do you recommend from that side of it?
Yeah, you definitely need a lawyer, someone that you can, obviously when you started the business, you needed to get a lawyer to get the
lease agreement,
LLC, right? An LLC is a legal thing. Right, but sometimes LegalZoom can provide that. I like to have a local lawyer, someone that down the street that if, hey, I really need something, I can go and have a conversation with them on the phone. But then there's also, good fitness lawyers. There's a company that sponsored us before called Conscious Counsel,
met them in
right?
Orlando.
And they do a really good job of being very specific to the fitness industry. For that, they're more on the side of waivers and things like that. And I'll tell you, you were there when we got sued, right?
Yes.
You were there, and what helped us when we got sued was our legal agreement, was the actual agreement that the person signed. That when they signed it as a client for the first time, that is what saved us. And so like that stuff matters. That stuff is really important. So you want to make sure that your waivers are up to date. You want to make sure that like you have a good insurance person too, that is like, you have the right insurance. Like I had a consulting day with somebody and we were going through their expenses. And I was like, well, like this seems like weird. Like this, like, well, how much is your insurance?
No insurance.
And he looked at me with this like blank stare. He's like, yeah, I let my insurance lapse. I was like, dude. Like that is like you'll lose everything.
Yep.
Everything. Like there's tools of the trade. There's helmet, shoulder pads, cleats. There's things that we need to do this stuff, and like you gotta have insurance.
Because people get sued. We live in like a litigious society where like
100%.
And the truth is like people are gonna get hurt to some degree,
Yes.
right? Like we were a very conservative training gym, right? We weren't doing anything crazy. We kept people about as safe as you could lifting weights, especially with the age demographic that we had. And people still got banged up. Like it's going to happen.
Yes.
We had a woman trip on the turf one time, and we weren't putting her in a bad position. Literally just tripped on the turf and broke her arm. Do you remember that?
Who's that?
Well, we don't have to say her name on the podcast. We don't have to say her name on the podcast. Yeah, but we were warming up, and she was literally walking down the turf to go warm up and tripped and broke her arm. And it's like that stuff is going to happen. So
the one I remember was when we first started going. There's two I remember when we first started, right? Yeah. And the first one was, remember the men's fat blast guy where the guy?
Yeah.
So we had to call the ambulance.
We had to call the ambulance.
And I remember this, and I'm like, I remember saying to myself, because this was like the first couple months we were in business.
First 6 months for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, is this what it's gonna be like? Mm-hmm. Like, am I have to worry about looking over my shoulder? We haven't had to call the ambulance once since then. And we're almost coming up on 2 decades now as a business, right? But I remember being like that. But you have that, and then the other one was a woman. She showed up to the turf and she tore her calf. One step just tore her calf.
I remember that.
Remember that?
Yes.
And she couldn't walk. It was horrible.
But people are going to get hurt.
Stuff happens.
And a lot of the guys in the mastermind we've talked to, that's a big point of stress when a lawsuit comes down the pipe. So you want to make sure you're prepared for that.
Yes.
But it just got me thinking also, I think it's a good indicator. We were talking before we started recording, all these people that were on the team, they all trained with us.
Yep.
So our lawyer trained with us, the insurance guy trained with us, the accountant. Waldron didn't because he doesn't live here.
Right.
But our tax accountant trained with us, and it was I remember
construction guy, Tommy. Yeah.
Construction guy, our electrician, our plumber. They were all members. They would come in the gym and kind of see what we were doing, and I remember thinking that's pretty cool. You're kind of doing a good job when everybody who walks in the door kind of looks around and goes, I want to try this. I want to try this. And
here's a great marketing play. So I bet you if you look at all the people that you have in your business, your accountant, your lawyer, your insurance guy, all those people, Like, what about offering them all a free month to come to your gym and try it? Right. Because all those people are kind of connected people. They're local.
For sure.
Right? They're local people.
They have a huge client list themselves.
Like, we've gotten many clients. Like, our account has sent over many clients, right? So, yeah, I think that's a great little marketing idea.
Get all the people that you work with, get them in the building, and then they become your biggest fans, and they'll fight for you a little bit more. I'm sure your lawyer's a lot more willing to help you.
100%.
And then you can talk to your lawyer because they'll bill you. The lawyer will bill you, but if he's training in your gym, you can have a legal conversation. And I mean, we had Sunil was a cardiologist. I used to train one-on-one, and I basically got like an education on cardiology. Yeah. But he was paying us.
He was great.
He was paying us. But it's like when you get those people in, you can have conversations and they're willing to help. So.
Oh, there are tons of. There's so many.
All right, so we got off track. We got sidetracked. No, let's get back to the topic. All right, biggest difference between 100K and 20K a month. There's a big difference between them, and this goes back to what we talked about with the accountants, is looking at those P&Ls. So where do you start?
So here's where this all came from. So in 2019, I started a small group mastermind called the CEO Mastermind. We had the regular SPF, which was a larger group, and I realized there were some people in that group that were doing really well that needed more of a deep dive into their business. And so I created this process called the CEO Mastermind. And what it is it's a meeting 4 times a year, because a lot of times the best way to look at how a business is doing chunk by chunk is by the quarter, right? Either Q1 report, Q2 report. But it's just a good way to look at a business because things happen usually in 90-day worlds. One big mistake that people make is they have 1 month of bad anything, and they think like they have to change everything.
Well, you said it last episode that 3 months is a trend.
Yes, 90 days.
The 3 months is a trend, so you got to look for trends as opposed to freaking out because of one weird month. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I wanted that kind of structure to be in place where, hey, every 90 days, they're going to take a break, right? They're going to go away from their business, get outside their business, and they're going to spend some time looking at what happened and evaluate that and then get support on what they need to do moving forward. And so I sat and I was like, all right, what is the document that needs to be created to be able to evaluate a business? And so I looked at things like, obviously, the profit and loss statement. Mm-hmm. Right? And I got that from, you ever watch the show, The Profit?
Of course.
With Marcus Lemonis. So there's Marcus Lemonis. If you haven't seen it, every business owner should watch that show. But basically, he goes into struggling businesses and he helps turn them around. You go watch. There's not one episode of The Profit where there's not a scene where he sits down, sometime at a restaurant or sometimes at a table. There's not one episode where he doesn't sit down and says, all right, now let's go over the financials.
Right.
Not one.
You got to know your numbers.
Because it's the truth teller in business, right? And so that's a big piece of it. So I've never been part of a mastermind, nor did I know of any other mastermind that was doing it. Because a lot of times people are like, they don't want to. The people running the business don't want to know their numbers.
For sure.
They just want to tell them to do things and be like, hopefully it works.
Make emotional decisions.
Right.
Now, do you ever see like the inverse of like someone you asked, how's business? And they say, it's great. Because emotionally they're really liking what they're doing or they have a good feeling about it. And then you look at the numbers and they stink. And then the inverse, do you ever see that? Or do you see the inverse when someone's like, it's terrible, but they're making money?
Yeah.
Is that common?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it happens all the time. And typically, most people aren't good at this, right? I don't know what it is, if it's us as trainers. Yeah. We're just not good at it. We're good at looking at a barbell and looking at 3 plates on each side, knowing that's 315, but we're not as good. And the reality is, you don't need to be an accountant and you don't need to be a CFO, but you need to understand this stuff just enough to be able to make good decisions for your business.
So the first step in looking at the difference is we got to know the numbers. You got to know your numbers. You got to look at the P&L.
You got to know the next thing is we wanted to look at what's going on with like the people in the business, which is called an org chart. Okay. Right. And basically, an org chart is like, what's like it's like a roster. It's like what's going on with the squad. Who's in charge of what? What people do we have in the seats? What do we need to take someone away? Who do we need to delegate to another position and things like that? And as the businesses got to a higher level, this became more important. In the beginning, there was like you and one other part-time trainer.
But I remember the first offsite we ever did, and we sat and we did the org chart, and that you had that like awakening of like,
yes,
who's in charge of marketing? Vincent. Who's in charge of sales? Vincent. And I remember it was like dead quiet in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
And he goes, "Oh, that's why you're so overwhelmed."
Right.
Yeah.
It was like, but that was eye-opening. The first time we never really looked at an org chart. We had never even thought about doing that.
No.
But when we actually wrote it out and went, "Oh, this is why."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a business grows, like that needs to change. It's like a team is not going to have the same squad all the time.
Right.
And so that's another piece. So we looked at that, and that needs to be evaluated every quarter, right? We looked at what their goals were. We looked at what, how they achieved. Did they achieve what they set out to achieve? My goals were this. Here's what happened. Here's what I learned. And so the document is really built around this kind of, I look at it as like a mechanic looking under the hood of a business, right? I'm lifting up the hood, and I'm looking and seeing if everything's in the right place, what's wrong here, why is this light on, what's that like? And like, hey, if every 90 days we can do that, that's going to be a very healthy thing for the business. And so this concept of these 100K gyms, so I started this group in 2019. The majority of the people in the group are still in the group.
Yeah.
Gone through COVID, gone through this. The majority of the people are still there. And they do not miss meetings. Actually, I can't say that some miss once in a while.
Right, but it's not common.
It's uncommon. Actually, TJ Lopez is the only one in the main group that has never missed a meeting, not one. And he's been in it since the very beginning.
But it also goes to show he's a very successful guy.
He just did, what did he do? Like over 2 million.
Gym owner of the year.
Yeah, gym owner of the year. Yeah. Never missed. Devin Gage is missing his first one this time. He texted me. He's like, I had to take his daughter to a camp or something. So he's missing his first meeting. But this is a guy that opened up 9 gyms, but every quarter he comes
for seven years straight.
Yeah. And it's a really talented group. So the most of them are doing well over 100K. Well over 100K. I mean, some of them are doing 200-300K a month. And so this concept of what's the difference between these guys and some of the other people, running gyms, is they do some very specific things. And that's what that's really, if you took anything from that, it's look at your business in a 90-day world and take time away. EOS talks about these things called clarity breaks. Right, and it's very hard to make decisions in your business when you're always in it and you're always there. Taking time to step away and to get outside your business, whether that's going out, to a seminar and to thinking about it, to visit a mentor or something like that, but like getting outside of your walls is a really powerful thing to do.
Jocko Willink, we were a fan of Jocko. He talks about detaching as on the battlefield of like taking your eyes off the gun, putting the gun down and stepping back and then looking at everyone else on your team, and it's much easier to see. Like his whole thing is detachment, where like if you're looking down the sights of your gun, you're going to miss everything around you. So as a leader, you got to put your gun down, step back, and then see what the hell is going on around you. It's the exact same concept.
What is that from? Did he teach that in Extreme Ownership? Is that?
I can't remember which one. It was either Dichotomy of Leadership or Extreme Ownership.
Okay, yeah.
But he talks about how important as a leader detachment is to not be so they call it front sight focused, where you're just looking down the barrel of your gun. Sometimes you got to step back and see what the hell is going on before you can really look at it.
That's brilliant. I will say this: his kids' books. Just a shout out. Yeah. We don't get anything from this, but I read The Way of the Warrior Kid with Joey when he was 4 years old, and we read it, and it talks about jiu-jitsu in there.
That's why he started.
And that's why he started, and he just is getting his yellow belt.
That's amazing.
In a couple weeks.
They're making a movie out of that.
I heard about that. Yeah. What is it? Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
But those books, if you have kids, like read The Way of the Warrior Kid with your kids. It's amazing.
All right, so now we know how do we figure it out. So you got to look you got to look at your numbers, right? There's a bunch of different ways to kind of analyze the business.
Yeah.
Well, once you did that, you looked at the P&L, you looked at the team, you looked at all these things. What were like the glaring things that stood out to you as far as like this is the difference between really successful and people that are struggling a little bit?
Yep. I've yet to see a financially successful gym that got price wrong?
Price of the service you're talking about.
Correct. Like how much money you're charging, and are you charging enough? I've yet to see a business that got that wrong that's doing big numbers.
All right.
Right. And so every one of these guys, whether they came in with it right or wrong, was a different story. Right. Some of them we had to tweak it and change it. But they eventually came around to charging premium prices. And part of charging premium prices is also selecting the right target market. Because it's very hard to charge premium prices when your market is on the lower demographic side.
Gotcha.
Right? And so that's like a huge thing. And the story, a lot of times, gyms get caught up in not raising prices because they have the relationships with their people, and they're like, these are my friends, and these are people like, and I think one of the things that people need to get their heads around with price is that the job always must be to honor the business.
All right, be more explicit. What does that mean?
The business comes before the owner, the business becomes before the staff, the business comes before the clients. Because the business isn't healthy. The business is designed to help all those people.
Right.
Right? The business gives the staff careers, the business gives the clients a place to train, but if the business suffers and the business isn't healthy financially, everybody suffers. And so we have to have that mindset of, I have to honor the business through charging the right price. Right? And I'm not saying skew your people, I'm not saying that, but sometimes it gets to a point where, hey, costs do rise. Like if you've been in business for a decade, tell me your insurance didn't go up. Tell me your health insurance didn't go up. Tell me your clients, your trainers didn't ask for a raise. The cost of equipment went up. Like everything goes up. Yet gyms are like, I want to charge the same prices as I did in 1994.
Right.
And it just doesn't work. And the guys that have what I call price cowardice, which is a little bit of a ruthless term.
That's tough, but
it's a tough. Yeah. But don't be if you're a price coward, you're not going to get to 100K. And if you do, it means you have so much volume that that's going to end up turning into a problem because you have so much to replace every month.
Have you? I know this is one. I mean, as long as you've been doing this, as long as you've been consulting with gym owners, this has been a conversation. I remember the small masterminds when we were on like the easel. Like the dry erase board.
Yep.
And it was like, we got to raise your prices. This has been a conversation since day one.
Yes.
In all those years of doing this, have you ever had someone do it? And because I think that's the fear is people are going to leave. It's going to destroy my business. I'm going to get a bad reputation. People are going to think I'm greedy or whatever the word is. I think there's a lot of fear around raising your prices. Have you ever seen someone raise their prices and their business collapse because of it or fall apart?
I've never seen it collapse. But I have in a very, very small number of people seen that there's two circumstances that you want to avoid raising prices. Okay, the first circumstance is you're losing clients out the wazoo.
Okay.
Right, and all of a sudden, if you have a churn rate, we're going to talk about that in a second. But if you have a churn rate of like 10% and it should be at 4%, you have a problem. And raising your prices on those people is just going to make that worse. So. And I'm talking very small, right? Because usually people are coming to us being like, I want to raise my prices, or we're coming to them saying, you need to raise your prices, right? So usually, hopefully, there's an advisement, of support and help. And if we identify that they have a retention problem, we will tell them, you got to hold back right now.
You got to fix that problem first before you go up. Okay.
Right? But the other thing is sometimes it's how it's communicated. So I had a person that raised their prices without asking. They were in our group. They aren't in the group anymore. And
they raised their prices without having a conversation with you guys.
Correct.
Okay.
And they raised their prices, and here's what they said. You ready? Due to inflation, we are raising our prices.
That's tough.
And it was just like I was like, what? Like, you sent this? This is real?
That was an email that was sent to members.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Always remember this. What's in it for them?
Yeah.
Yes, raise your prices as you should, but you have to position it and angle it in that the members are getting value from this. What are you doing with the money? Like, we just raised our prices. The first thing I did with the money, right, and I'm not afraid to say this, but first thing we did with the money was gave staff raises.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
And I bet you, if your members have good relationships with the staff,
they want that.
They want that. They want them to be fired.
And it's funny. So I'm preaching. I'm not saying preaching to the choir, but I'm not saying I eat my own dog food. So I'm not saying and telling anyone on this podcast to do something that I'm not willing to do. In October at GFP, we raised our prices. 4 different people came out to me and said this: "Cool in the price raise. Just make sure you're taking care of your staff."
For sure.
They want to see that.
100%.
They want to see that.
Now, is that something you communicated to the
members?
No,
I can't remember if it was actually in the letter, but I think it actually was.
Right.
And I'm not saying that has to be in the letter. If you're not going to do that, right, then don't say that.
Don't say it, right?
Yeah, if you're not going to do that, then don't say that. But we would say, like, we're reinvesting in equipment, we're moving the facility, like things like that.
Gotcha.
But you do want to communicate value to them. Now, this is the example I want to show. There's some people that have been advised poorly and said, when you sign up for a member, tell them that you'll never ever raise their prices.
Yeah. Take that out of your verbiage right now.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Okay.
Please don't do that. Like I said, the Starbucks, like,
no.
Do you pay the same? Like, Vanessa's coffee is like $19.
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts. Like, when I go to Starbucks and I buy her coffee, venti vanilla Americano with 5 shots of vanilla, like, it's very expensive. Yeah, it wasn't always like that.
You're paying like $1 per pump on them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
Right? They have no problem raising their prices. Right? Why do we? So one of the guys, we were in one of the CEO groups, and he's like, I can't raise my prices. And I was like, why? He's like, well, when I signed my members up, I told them that I would never ever raise their rates. And I challenged him. I was like, how many of those people are still actually there that you promised that to? And there was like a very, very small percentage.
And of those people, how many remember him saying it? You know what I mean? It's like,
I'll tell you how many. 1.
And that's the one person they lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
This guy promised everybody that he would never raise their prices, and he did. And he said it was the most successful thing he's ever done in his business from a profit standpoint. Because there's no faster way to make more profit than to raise your prices. Because if you have no increase in expense, when you bring on new members, there's costs acquired to that, right? Yeah. When you raise your price, there's not, right? So it's literally just all profit. And so if you raise your prices by 10%, your profit's going to increase by 10%.
Now, how often should this happen? Because you're saying the difference between 100K a month and 20K a month. Am I raising my prices every year?
Yep.
So if someone has been with me for 10 years, and I think that's the big question.
I don't want to say that there's a right formula. Okay. A lot of guys are starting to do this a price raise every year. Okay. They're probably not going to. So we raised our prices at GFP by 12%. We're not going to do that every year. Yeah, if we raise our prices by 12% every year, we would get to a point where people are like, hey, dude.
Right. There's a point of diminishing returns with this.
So if you are going to do it every year, I think the increments are small. I don't have enough data to say what's right or wrong. That should you do one increase of a higher percentage every few years? Should you do a small increase, every year? I don't have enough data to make that. I do think that you got to pick one and do it. Gotcha. Whether that's a big once, cut deep, right? And do like what we did, 12%, because it was a $50 price a month.
It's a jump.
It was a big jump. It was a little scary. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. Even as someone that teaches this all the time, doing it in my own business, I was like, oh boy,
Yeah.
Okay, let's hold on.
You press send on that.
Let's hold on. Yeah. But it was fine. It worked out great. We actually lost a couple people, but one of them already came back.
Yeah.
So it was a very successful, venture, and it was great.
All right.
And so, but the point in being is that the guys doing 100K, they're not cowards about price.
Right. They're going to look at it. They're going to analyze it properly, and then if they're able to, they got to bump that.
And they're going to make an unemotional decision. Like you kind of said that, as you're alluding to it, there's a lot of head trash around it, right? And most of the head trash is our own making. Mm-hmm. It's a lot bigger deal to us because what are we afraid of? We're afraid of controversy. We're afraid of conflict. We're afraid of being looked at as greedy.
People
we're
think,
afraid.
right.
Yeah.
I think that's the big one is people looking at you like,
Yeah, like who the fuck are you? Like, dude, you're gonna all of a sudden raise my price, or you
think you're that good?
Yeah,
like,
you're gonna buy your house on the hill now, all that stuff.
Yep.
They're afraid of that. And here's the thing: I think that you have to understand that there is a risk that some of that will come. And my answer to that is, okay.
Good.
Yeah. So what? Okay. But going back to the first point, you must honor the business. You must honor the business, and sometimes the business needs to make more money, right? And maybe you don't have the ability to wait to get, 50 more customers to be able to make more money. Maybe you need to do it right now.
All right. So that's number one, raise prices.
Yeah, well, it's not raise prices because it's more of get it right.
Gotcha.
Get price right. And all of the guys doing 100K, they got price right. They're charging premium prices. They're working with premium clients that they're commanding those types of fees for, and then they're not afraid to raise them if they need to raise them.
All right. What else you got? So that's a big one, the price. They're getting that price right. What's number two?
A lot of ways I see these guys that are doing 100K, they have what's called an investment mindset. And the people kind of stuck have what's called a cost mindset. Meaning if there's a mastermind to join, if there's a marketing thing to invest in, right? If there's a seminar to go to, the people with the cost mindset look at that thing and they're like, oh, that's going to cost me this much money. And they have fear around that being a cost, so they tend to hold tight. Whereas the 100K people have a lot of belief in themselves. And they understand that because I have this belief, this money that I spend and this money that I make is an investment. And we all know what an investment is. Mm-hmm. Sometimes investments work. Sometimes they don't.
It's always a risk.
There's always a risk. Yeah. And so they're willing to take that risk. Like, I'm willing to spend $2,000 on a newspaper ad, knowing that it might not work. It's possible that this thing doesn't work, but they're willing to take that risk. That's what it's all about. And so the 100K people, they've kind of taken that thinking process and they're like, I am going to find things to invest in to grow my company.
So, because I'll be honest with you, when you first sent me the ideas here, you said investment mindset, and I'm thinking like, oh, these guys are investing in Airbnbs and like they're putting their money in the stock market to make more money because it's like the gym can only do so much. So now I have to diversify my portfolio, right? Get money out there. So you're not talking about any outside investment. When you say investment, you're talking about...
Here's a little layers of investments, right? Here's layer one, investment in themselves.
What does that mean?
They will invest and spend money on making themselves better.
How do you do that?
They spend money in skill acquisition. If they don't know how to public speak, they'll hire a public speaking coach. If they don't know how to, solve a problem with real estate, they'll hire whatever, right? They are always, always, always on the pad. They won't blink twice in buying a book, right? They won't look twice at going into a seminar, 2-day seminar. They won't even blink at that stuff. It's not like I have this thing like with that. Like for me, I look at any investment that I can make in my health. I don't blink an eye at what the cost is.
Give me an example. Right? What you mean?
So, example, I hired a functional med doc that was in Chicago, and it's expensive. It's not cheap.
Right.
And I told Vanessa like how much it is. She's like, what? And I was like, yeah, but that is an investment in my energy. That's an investment in my brain. That's an investment in, and I'll tell you, like since I've got this guy, like my sleep is 10 times better.
Right, and your ability to work.
My ability to work. So it's like, it's an investment in myself. And when I invest in myself, everything in my life is going to get better because I'll have more energy. I'll have more clarity. And then I'm a better parent. And then I'm a better husband. And then I'm a better employee or team member, right? Everything gets better the people is they have an investment mindset in themselves.
I think the one, you said it, and you were talking about marketing. At one point you talked about it, but like, I'm going to put $100 in today, and 30 days from now, I get 500 back. How many times would you do that?
As many times as possible.
And when I think of that, that's the same idea. It's like, yeah, it hurts to put it in there now, But if you knew the return, there's a chance that big return comes back.
That's exactly right. That's the second layer. The second layer is they invest in client acquisition.
Okay.
Right? So they are not afraid to spend money to buy customers. The number you need to know for that is the lifetime customer value. Every one of these guys knows their lifetime customer value. Right? They know it cold. And they're like, all right, I know. So at GFP, we have a lifetime customer value of around 10 grand. It's two different formulas. I'm not going to go over the formulas today.
Yeah,
but it's two different formulas average out to around 10 grand.
There's a way to figure out exactly how much signing up one member is worth over the
right.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, dude, a client is worth $10,000. I have no problem spending $2,000 to get that $10,000.
So what is that number? What are you willing to invest?
So the way you look at it is called a CAC to lifetime value ratio, and I like a 1 to 5 ratio.
Okay.
That means I'm willing to spend, if I'm going to spend $1 on marketing, I want to get 5 back. That's kind of like what it is. And again, I'm trying to think of where I went into this. I think I went into it actually in the 4 Stages book pretty deeply, and I think I did it in one of the things, but. Without getting, we can do another podcast on it.
That's
what I'm saying. Like, the
topic.
goal is like if you're going to invest in marketing, your goal should be if I'm going to spend $1, I want to try and get 5 back.
All right. So what else? So you talked about investing in your own personal health, whether it's your education, physical health, investing in client acquisition.
Ready?
Any other investments we can make?
Your team.
Your team.
Your team.
All right. What do you mean by that?
They're investing time and money in the team. Meaning, hey, if I have a good staff member. Most of the guys that have, these 100K businesses, they have key staff members. And they ain't underpaying for them.
All right, there's a fear.
If anything, they're ponying up a little bit for these guys.
But there's fear involved with that. Because I think what a lot of people's mindset is, I'm going to put all this money and time into this person. I'm going to make them so good that they're going to dip out and take all the cut. That's a common conversation that we have with gym owners.
Right.
Like, I'm going to put so much money and time into this person, and they're gone, and that's going to hurt my business in the long run. What do you say to that?
And I say what John Maxwell says is, what if they stay and they remain dumb?
Yeah, you got that thought, right?
Right. That's a John Maxwell quote.
That's a risk, right?
That's 100%.
You're investing in the person. There is that risk.
There is that risk that you don't invest in them and they get complacent, and then they don't get any better, and then it drives your company down, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is like, all right, I got myself that I'm investing in. I have client acquisition that I'm investing in. I have staff members that I'm investing in. But it all kind of encompasses this thinking process, this mindset of I am not afraid to spend money. I am not afraid to spend time. It's not because it's not just money. It's especially for staff.
For sure.
Right? And even investing in yourself, that takes time. It takes time. If you're going to go to a seminar, that takes your time. If you're going to go do a course, that takes time. So it's time. It's not just money. It's also time that you're willing to spend. But it's a mindset. It's a thinking process of getting out of this is going to cost me this, and not taking the risk versus this is an investment that I'm willing to take, and it may work out, it may not work out, but I'm willing to take it anyway because this is the thinking process of success.
Awesome. So we're getting your prices right. You're investing have an investment mindset, we'll say.
Yeah.
What else you got?
So the next one is these guys are all, the 100K guys are the good action takers. They are doing shit. It's like, so Dan Kennedy wrote a book, and the title of it, it's a really small book. It's like that thing, right? And the title of it is The Ultimate Success Secret. And basically, the premise of the book is, if there's one success secret that trumps all of the others, it's taking action. Because yes, you can have, really be good at relationships. You can be, really good at, taking responsibility. You can be really good at all these success principles, right, that we learn about and read about all the time. But if we don't do shit, nothing happens.
All right, I'm going to cut you off because it's a very broad statement you're making right now. What does that mean, take action? Because I feel like you talk a lot about busy work and fake work and stuff like that. So what do you mean, take action?
I mean that they come up with an idea, and they realize that idea can help them move their business forward, and then they act on it immediately.
Can you give me an example?
So we had a guy, so I'm going to take you back to COVID.
Yeah.
Okay. It's COVID-19, and we were having these CEO meetings. There was no worst time to come in and show a group of people your profit and loss statement during COVID.
It was tough.
It was brutal,
Yeah.
Like absolutely brutal.
No one was really growing. No
one was. We were all shrinking,
Right,
all of us, me included.
It was
right?
the opposite, for sure.
It was horrible.
For
it was
sure.
crazy. And the temperature of the room was really grim. Everyone was kind of depressed and sad and like all this stuff.
Well, those conversations at that time were more about, like, if we only lost a few people, that it wasn't even like growing. It was like, how do we stop the hemorrhage?
Well,
How do we slow the bleeding down as opposed to growing? It wasn't even about that. It was about slowing bleeding.
The entire philosophy around COVID, from my standpoint, what I was teaching, is keep what you have.
Right.
Is do everything you have to keep what you have.
And that was a fight.
Yeah, that was a fight, dog fight.
So during COVID, who was taking action?
So I challenged everybody to, I told them that you're going to have to do more than you've ever done before to get lesser or the same result. And so what you need to do right now is, if you want to get more customers, you need to make more offers. They weren't making enough offers because they were almost like afraid. Remember that point of everyone's like afraid to sell anything?
Yeah.
During COVID?
So we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, like we didn't like, but I said, no, we can't do that. We have to get this business going. And what I challenged them to do was to make one offer a day. And I learned this from Frank Kern. And Frank Kern basically says, the more offers you make, the more money you make. So the more people you offer to come to your gym, the more people will come. The more emails you send with an offer to do something, the more people will. It's just law of averages, right? And so I challenged these guys in the room to every day in the quarter to make one offer a day. And I think there was like 7 guys in the group, and I think 6 out of 7 did it. And they all came back with different numbers. Every one of them. Right? One specific guy, Anthony Bevilacqua, crushed it. Like, he took it to an extreme. And he made 5 offers a day. I don't know, I think he did it. But he took it to like a whole nother level. But it was taking action. Like, he took it, he saw the idea, he saw the concept, and he did it. And that's why I think a lot of people that stuck around 20K, they're overthinkers. They're like, oh, offer a day, that's good. Well, let me make sure that I have the right offer, and let me make sure that, I can find the right person and the right, and they overthink it till they they shit all over themselves.
Get paralyzed.
Right, they get paralyzed.
Yeah.
Right, versus someone like AB, just like, all right, offer a day. Hey, you want this? He just didn't give me what he was selling. He just did it.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, the guys doing bigger numbers, they're not slow. They move really, really quickly. They get something done. They do it consistently, and it shows in their businesses. So if there is one thing that if someone wants to improve their life and someone wants to improve their business, it's like if they can become better at action taking. And that is why I am such a big proponent of staying fit as an entrepreneur, because energy is the lifeblood of what we do.
Right.
If we don't have energy, we don't take action. And so doing cardio, eating clean, getting enough sleep, gym owners are not immune to that. And I think sometimes they think they are. Oh, because I own a gym and because I've lifted my whole life, that I'm, an energized, vibrant person. And no, there's a lot of really fat entrepreneurs out there that are dragging ass and not doing what they can be doing because they're not in shape themselves, right? And so if they really want to take it to the next level, they got to take action. And you're not going to take action if you're tired all the time, if you're overweight, if you're not eating well. Like, you got to do that part of it. So that's what I see with a lot of these guys, is that they're taking care of business and they're taking action. And I would strongly suggest people to find that book. I don't know where they would find it, the Kennedy book.
Okay.
There's also another book that's more publicly available called Action by Robert Ringer. It's literally just the whole book on taking action.
Taking action.
Yeah.
Taking action, get the book.
You don't even read the book. Just like put the book in your bookshelf facing forward, and it says action right on the thing, and just like let that remind you to do that.
All right, so that's 3. Give me one more. So we got get your price right.
Yeah.
Invest, take action. Give me one more.
These guys have their finger on the pulse of retention. They are retention-focused businesses more than acquisition businesses. And if their retention gets out of whack, it's the first fix. I had a call just before this. I had a 3-hour meeting, right? And he's a very new person to the group. And he needs to get 30 customers right away. And he was telling me what his retention was, and it was poor. And basically what he was doing is he was putting 30 new customers into a leaking bucket.
So leaking bucket, right.
And I told him, I was like, bro, yeah, I can help you get 30 new customers, but you got to be honest with yourself and be like, there are some really basic things. And this guy was not even tracking attendance, wasn't even taking attendance. Didn't have any wherewithal with what was happening with his current customer base. And I was like, yes, you can spend money, you can go do all those things, but if you don't have your finger on this is the training session is the critical event of a business, of our business, right? If we don't have that down, one, we're not going to be as successful as it could be, but two, if we're not evaluating how that is going, meaning are people showing up?
Right.
Are they continuing showing up? Are there changes in patterns? If we're not aware of those things, and that's why I like the software Anomaly, because Summit does a really good job of helping keep tabs on that stuff.
Is that common for you to see? Because I know a lot of people come to you for marketing. You do your marketing master classes and your workshops and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and people are like, I need to market better. I need to market better.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden you turn around and you go, no, you don't.
Yes.
Is that really common?
It's very common. It's very common. Probably just one, they don't track it. Like this guy did not really know.
Right.
He had to, and he told me like how many people he was losing. I was like, how true is that number? And he kind of went in, and it was a lot more than what he said originally.
Right.
Right. Because when he had to go back in and look. But these 100K guys, they have their finger on the pulse. And I will tell you this: many of the guys that I'm talking about are opening up multiple locations, and they are finding operators to go in each location. Here's what they're looking for. They're not looking for sales guys. They're looking for retention guys.
So what is the retention
So
guy?
here's the difference between so you're a retention guy.
What does that mean?
So when you were here, were you better at sales or retention?
Retention.
Retention, right? Because you went out on the floor, you believed in the product 100%, you did a phenomenal job of doing the product, you created brilliant relationships, and that alone we didn't have to do any cutesy things for retention. Right? That alone did the trick. Now we did both, right? Versus a sales guy that's always looking to just get the next sale and ignores what's going on.
Right. And you're just filling that leaky bucket.
Correct. And so that's why I would say, like, you always want, if you find a general manager, you want a retention-focused person. And typically, the better they are at relationships, the better they're going to be at retention. And so you want to find a good relationship person. So they're looking for those types of people. They're building systems around this. They're militantly tracking the numbers. They understand that a 1% reduction in attrition rate,
right.
A 5% attrition rate.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is like, what is that? At what point? So, someone's listening to this and they're tracking their numbers this month.
Yeah.
And they go, what? I know we've talked about it in the past, but what should we be looking for? What's good retention?
If you could be below 3% and below, you're in the sweet spot.
Okay.
Like, and again, this is specifically for higher end, one-on-one personal training, small group personal training. If you use the dumb term semi-private, I guess, that. If you're doing more large group, it's going to skew a little bit higher.
For sure.
It's going to skew a little bit higher. Where were you guys at?
7.
7. Okay. But that's good, right?
Yeah.
That's really good for a large group.
Because the volume was higher coming in.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. But I think like 7 to 10% is probably like, because at the end of the day, think about it. Like if you had 300 members, even at 10%, like that's a lot of people to replace.
It's a lot of people.
A lot of people to replace. So I think if you're 3% and below, the mid part is like between 3 to 4%. Right. That's kind of like the midpoint. You're doing good, but you're not killing it. And then 5 plus. If you're 5 and up, you got to work. You got some work to do. I'll be honest. Like you got some work to do. And remember too, don't look at 1 month. You look at a 90-day world. Same thing. But the reason why, here's why this is so important. This is so important is because as this number gets higher, as the attrition rate gets higher, acquisition becomes more of a priority. Acquisition takes time. Acquisition takes energy. Acquisition takes money.
Yep.
And so what you're doing is you're making your job harder. When you lower the attrition, your job in marketing gets easier.
Because you don't need as many people.
You don't need as many people.
Gotcha.
And you don't have to spend as much money, and you don't have to spend as much time, right? And so you have a lot of these high acquisition businesses that are churning, burning people, and they're going to run out of gas.
Yeah.
Right? Versus if I have really stable retention, and I'm really, really good at that, I can almost like, not be a marketing expert, right? And be able to refill my bucket. But that these guys have their finger on that pulse. I'm not saying they're perfect all the time, because there's quarters where it gets out of whack and they're like, oh, what happened here? We got to figure it out. But they have their finger on the pulse, and this is a massive, massive priority for these guys. Yeah.
All right, so let's just review those. Get your price right.
Don't be a price coward.
Don't be a price coward. Invest. Have an investment mindset.
In yourself.
In your business.
In yourself, in your acquisition, and in your staff.
Okay. Be an action taker. Take action. Get the book. Action. Is that the name?
Yeah, Action by Robert Ringer.
And understand your retention. Have your finger on the pulse.
Yeah, and I would just encourage everybody to improve their retention by 1%.
Okay.
Like if you can, do the math on it.
Yeah.
Put it into ChatGPT. Be like, here's my current, recurring revenue. Here's how many clients I have. Like, here's my attrition rate. What would if I reduce my attrition rate over the next 12 months by 1%, how much more money would I make? It's going to shock you. It's going to shock you.
All right.
A 1% difference.
So those are the big four. The biggest difference between 100K and 20K.
Yeah, there's more. Those are
those are the big
things
four.
that stood out to me.
Oh, we got to talk about one more thing.
Yeah.
Vince's huge giveaway.
Oh, it's huge.
All right, talk to me about it. Vince'sHugeGiveaway.com.
Yep.
We did a whole
episode on it, so definitely refer back.
Give me the elevator pitch.
Yeah, I told you that I'm approaching 20 years as a business owner, as a gym owner, and approaching a decade, 10 years, as a business coach.
Okay.
And so we're celebrating. We're doing something. We're doing something big.
Giving away huge giveaway.
We're giving away a huge giveaway worth $25,750. That's what the total is. The reason why I like this, because it's my huge giveaway, is that I'm not just giving away my stuff. I'm giving away stuff of other companies that I have good relationships with. And we talked about this in the very beginning.
For sure.
Right? That relationships are key in a business, right? And some of these relationships of people that I've partnered with for this giveaway, I've had a 15-year relationship with Perform Better. Yeah. I've had a 15-year relationship with Charlie Weingroff. I've had a 45-year relationship with Mike Waldron, and he's giving that right. But these are it really makes me proud to be able to put other things into this package of people that I believe in, that I trust, that I have history with, and I can fully confidently say that, hey, when we put all these things together for one business owner, whoever wins this, it's going to change their life.
If you look at, we talk about the biggest difference between 100K and 20K. These 100K a month gyms are probably doing a lot of the things you're getting in the giveaway. They're probably using a lot of the services.
Yes.
It's like, so that, I think if you win this, you're going to be on track.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really huge. And, I don't want to recap everything, but I mean, they're getting a one-on-one consulting day with me. They're getting 6 months in the SPF Mastermind. They're getting a day at GFP. They're getting in service with Charlie Weingroff.
Mike Waldron, Perform Better, Anomaly. We're missing, and there's more. There's more. Go to
CFSC cert. Yeah, all the details are at Vince's Huge Giveaway.
Vince'sHugeGiveaway.com.
Yeah, so click the link in the show notes.
Check it out
for that. But that's I'm super excited for this. I can't wait I'm telling you, I can't wait to see the face of the person that wins this thing, because their life's never going to be the same after this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Vince, man, have a great time.
Tom, that was great.
Good work.
Good work.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks for listening to FBU Podcast. Guys, if you got anything out of this episode, do us a favor. Hit that like button, share this episode with another fitness business owner, and subscribe to our channel. Every one of those clicks help us out a lot. And don't forget, visit vincegabriel.com for tons of free resources. There are books, downloads, everything a fitness business owner could need. Thanks again. Have a great day.